Oh, come on, repeat. L'shana tova. Like, where are you? Okay. It is written in Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18, where there is no vision, the people perish. Where there is no vision, the people perish. Where would we be without our dreams? The American dream is best articulated in the Declaration of Independence with the memorable words, all men, I hope we think all men and women, all men are created equal with a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Zionist dream was first written by Theodor Herzl in 1902 in his book Alt Neuland. He wrote, Im tirtzu ein zo agada. If you will it, it is no dream. Now, most of you know that quote, as is written in the shiny brass letters on the back wall of the atrium of our synagogue, the inspiration for our bold capital campaign to rebuild and restore our now beautiful synagogue. Dreams are so important. Yet, whenever we turn on the television, read the newspaper, or listen to the radio, we are confronted with not dreams, but rather with nightmares. As our Wilmington-based IMAC, African American Ministers Leadership Council, recently wrote about the alt-right's deadly march in Charlottesville, Virginia last month. The sin we saw in Charlottesville, though many won't want to admit it, is connected to America's original sin. It has wound its way through the Reconstructionist era, the Jim Crow era, the Brown versus the Board of Education era, the Civil Rights era, and the new Jim Crow era of criminalization and incarceration of black and brown people. And it's now alive in 2017 with the empowering of white supremacists and even neo-Nazis. With Nazi flags unfurled, last month's tragedy in Charlottesville was not just a nightmare for our African American neighbors, but for the Jewish community as well. In fact, for all Americans for that matter. What happened in Charlottesville is not the American dream. We are now between the observance of the 50th anniversary of the Six-Day War and the 100th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration, which stated Britain's approving a Jewish homeland. The Jewish Federation's J.J. Goldberg writes on the aftermath of 1967. He believes 67 is the demise of the Zionist dream. He writes, Israel drifted toward permanent rule over the 4.5 million Palestinians of the West Bank and Gaza. The inevitable result, it seemed, would be a state that was half Jewish and half Arab, either giving the Palestinians equal rights and ceasing to be a Jewish state, or keeping them subjugated and ceasing to be a democracy. Either way, the Zionist vision of a democratic Jewish state seemed doomed. That, it seemed, was to be the particular legacy of the miraculous victory of 1967. Wow. The crumbling of the Zionist dream is not just limited to a lack of progress in the peace between Palestinians and Israelis. In the latest August issue of Delaware's The Jewish Voice, Orthodox Rabbi Frederick Klein writes, from the beginning of the state, American Jewry, which is largely non-Orthodox, has never betrayed the Zionist vision. However, in the lack of recognition of any freedom of religion for liberal Jews or their leadership, the Jewish state has betrayed them again and again. That's written by an Orthodox rabbi. But in America, of course. One of our congregants was so angry at Prime Minister Netanyahu's abandoning the Western Wall Kotel compromise between his government and the diaspora Jewish community that he wished that I would not even talk about Israel this year at High Holidays, I guess to punish Israel. Yet another congregant told me that she wished we could learn how to speak more civilly about Israel and other controversial issues as well. High Holy Days should be a time of inspiration and hope. So I will not abandon Israel or America as sermon subjects. I will not. But rather than speaking of nightmares, which is nothing more than a recap of the nightly news, I want to spend some time for us to reconnect, to make a kesher with both the American and the Zionist dreams. As High Holy Days is a time of aspiration and inspiration, perhaps a review of these dreams will put us on the right path to achieve more for the United States, more for Israel, and hopefully more for ourselves in the new year. I believe we get an inspiring articulation of the American dream by, who else? A nice Sephardi Jewish girl of Portuguese descent, Emma Lazarus. I will recite the part you all know the best, and you can even recite it with me if you like. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Emma Lazarus wrote the New Colossus to help raise funds to erect the Statue of Liberty. She was only 34 when she wrote this poem, and quite tragically, she died a mere 4 years later in 1887. It would take another 16 years before the Statue of Liberty would be erected and her poem permanently installed at its base to inspire immigrants passing by this iconic symbol of the American dream. Now, in an interesting twist, Emma Lazarus was publicly advocating the dream of a Jewish homeland in Palestine 13 years before Theodor Herzl coined the term Zionism. Did you know that? Well, fascinating. Me too. The things you learn when you write a sermon. You know what Martin Luther King Jr. said about the American dream back in 1963, right? I still have a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. One day this nation will rise up and live up to its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. Lest you think that the era of great speeches are behind us, I must share with you what the ailing Senator John McCain on the floor of the United States Senate said. It was delivered on Wednesday, July 26, just after he delivered the decisive no vote on GOP legislation, which would have scrapped the Affordable Care Act, ACA, without putting forth a replacement plan. He said, "The success of the Senate is important to the continued success of America. This country, this big, boisterous, brawling, intemperate, restless, striving, daring, beautiful, bountiful, brave, good, and magnificent country needs us to help it thrive. That responsibility is more important than any of our personal interests or political affiliations. America has made a greater contribution than any other country to an international order that has liberated more people from tyranny and poverty than ever before in history. We have been the greatest example, the greatest supporter of that order. We aren't afraid. We don't covet other people's land and wealth. We don't hide behind walls. We breach them. We are a blessing to humanity." I know many of us wish Senator McCain and his family all the best as they face this terrible illness together. Our Rosh Hashana service follows a local Wilmington program called 10 Days of Prayer, held between September 8th and 17th. The official name of the program is 10 Days of Prayer to Strengthen a Community of Peace. As we've been speaking of dreams, let me share with you the dreams of our interfaith leaders for neighborhood ministries, of which Congregation Beth Shalom is a member. They write, "Imagine what our world, our city, would be like were we all, individually and collectively, to follow a basic tenet shared by each of our faith traditions. Do nothing to others that would hurt you if it were done to you." Hinduism. Do not offend others as you would not want to be offended. Buddhism. The successes of your neighbor and their losses will be to you as if they were your own. Taoism. That which we do not wish to be done to us, we do not do to others. Confucianism. That which you find hateful, do not do unto others. All the rest is commentary. Which one is that? Judaism. All right. Just checking. And everything, do to others what you would have them do unto you. Christianity. None of you shall be true believers unless you wish for your brother the same that you wish for yourself. Islam. This effort is being spearheaded by one of Wilmington's newest ministers, Reverend Jason Churchill of St. Stephen's Lutheran Church. I've met him and he's a mensch. I shared with him how marvelous it was that he chose the duration of 10 days, because in Judaism, we focus on 10 days of repentance between Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur. So this effort of turning dreams into reality right here in Wilmington would resonate strongly with the city's Jewish residents. Relearning and reconnecting to our dreams is so important, not only for America's success, but for the success of Israel as well. With Israel celebrating 4 important anniversaries this year: the 120th anniversary of the First Zionist Congress, the 100th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration, the 70th anniversary of the United Nations Partition Plan, and the 50th anniversary of the Six-Day War. Re-embracing the founding dreams of Zionism has never been more crucial. The dream of the First Zionist Congress, held in Basel, Switzerland in 1897, was articulated in the 1902 novel by Theodor Herzl. He envisioned a Jewish state that combined Jewish culture with the best of European heritage. The temple would be rebuilt, he wrote, but run on modern principles. Herzl did not envision the Jewish inhabitants of the state as being religious, but there would be respect for religion in the public sphere. Jews and Arabs would get along beautifully, he wrote. Herzl pursued his dream of trying to convince the world powers of embracing the need of a Jewish state unsuccessfully until his death in 1904. That dream will be fulfilled by Chaim Weizmann, a brilliant chemist who would go on to become Israel's first president. In 1906, Weizmann was introduced to Arthur Balfour, an up-and-coming member of parliament. Balfour, who had initially supported the idea of creating a Jewish homeland in Uganda, in British East Africa, was impressed with Weizmann. Despite great efforts to thwart the Zionists by the Foreign Office, in the end, Weizmann won. On November 2nd, 1917, Balfour wrote the following letter to Lord Walter Rothschild. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done that may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. Never heard the whole thing before, right? Just 20 years after the First Zionist Congress, Herzl's dream was realized in the Balfour Declaration. A significant world power, Britain, was now behind the creation of a safe haven for the Jewish people in Palestine. Well, we are now rapidly approaching the 70th anniversary of the United Nations Partition Plan, ratified on November 29th, 1947. The Hebrew expression for 29th is kaf and tet, where the Hebrew letter kaf equals 20 and the Hebrew letter tet equals 9. This date is so important in Israel that almost every single city and town in Israel has a kaf tet November street. The ultimate expression of that vote is Israel's Declaration of Independence, which reads, "The state of Israel will guarantee freedom of religion, conscience, language, education, and culture. It will safeguard the holy places of all religions, and it will be faithful to the principles of the United Nations." That's the Zionist dream. That's the founding vision for the state of Israel. The United Nations Plan of 1947 established a united Jerusalem. It called for opening of all faiths, as well as the land between Jerusalem and Bethlehem, including the Jewish Etzion block of settlements, also being under international protection. That dream was not to be. In the 1948 War of Independence, Arabs massacred the Jews in the Etzion block, and Jordan illegally seized the West Bank, which was supposed to be part of the new Arab state in Palestine, and grabbed the east side of Jerusalem, dividing the United City with an ugly wall, a no man's land, a barbed wire, and not allowing Jews access to their holy sites. People just don't seem to know history. The western wall of the ancient temple compound was now called the Wailing Wall because religious Jews would see it, but they were not able to get to it. And synagogues in what was the Jewish quarter of the old city were blown up by the Jordanians. We've just marked the 50th anniversary of the Six-Day War. In 1967, Jerusalem was now finally reunited. The West Bank was in Israeli hands. Today, in the West Bank, 385,000 Jews live in 131 settlements and 97 outpost settlements among 1.717 million Palestinians. True, these settlements only make up 1% of the land that Palestinians claim as a state. It is also true that the settlers' dreams come at the expense of Palestinian dreams. 50 years of occupying another people against their will has taken a terrible physical toll on the Palestinians and a terrible spiritual toll on the Israelis, especially Israeli youth. Together, we have spent an ever so brief time reviewing the nightmares which dominate our 24/7 incessant news cycle. I shared with you nothing that you could not have gleaned for yourself by opening up your smartphone or the daily newspaper. But what I hope was more fitting to our Rosh Hashana service was to explore with you the founding dreams for the United States. We also shared the early Zionist dreams of our beloved state of Israel, especially in light of our 4 significant anniversaries Israel's marking this year: Zionist Congress, Balfour Declaration, UN Partition Plan, and Six-Day War. I would be remiss if I did not also share with you my personal dream that we as a congregation might travel to Israel in late June of 2019. I need others who share this dream if we're going to make it a reality. Let me know if you are interested. Aside from reconnecting to dreams for America and dreams for Israel, my friends, at this Rosh Hashana, can I ask you to spend a moment to reconnect to your own personal dreams? What were your dreams for physical health, your spiritual and intellectual growth, for your children or your parents, for yourself? The only way we can hope to improve in the new year 5778 is to first be aware of the dreams we had, perhaps buried. We need to reclaim those dreams, dust them off, and then come up with a game plan to turn our dreams into reality. As Theodore Herzl said almost 120 years ago, Im tirtzu ein zo agada. If you will it, it is no dream. May this be the year that we turn our dreams into reality for America, for Israel, and for ourselves. Shana Tova.